Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Joshua Schultz, and this video is going to give you a little brief overview of the assessment rubric that we use to assess the professional projects that MS-Ed students are completing. So I will take you through each aspect of the rubric and give you some examples, and hope that this is very helpful in helping you know what the expectations are for your project. So let's go back to chapter 1. None of this should be new information for you, really, but we are going to be aiming for exceptional. Of course, we aim for a score of 4 in each section, but understand that an overall grade of accomplished in each of these sections must be obtained for MS-Ed students to receive a passing grade in their professional project. So the first component of the rubric for chapter 1, the introduction, is the need for the project to be established and there to be evidence of a deep level of understanding. Okay, so that deep level of understanding in our exceptional category, a deep level of understanding should be apparent and clearly related to the professional project. And the need for the project should be clearly stated and thoroughly supported. And that you provide a clear and explicitly stated overview and rationale for the project. So that just means that your readers will need to know why you're doing this, why it's important, how does it fit into your professional goals, your professional trajectory. Why do you as a teacher think this is something that is important both to the profession and to your students? How will it potentially contribute to an improvement in education? How will it demonstrate your leadership? Think about these things in terms of professional standards. So if your content area is math or social studies, etc., look to the content area standards in those fields and see what they are aiming at and see how what your project intends to do aligns with those standards. Okay. Also think about the goals of our MS-Ed program, the professional learning outcomes of the program. Think about how your professional project will connect to that. Also in chapter 1, you are really emphasizing why you're invested in doing this project. You know that you're going to spend a lot of time, upwards of 6 months, investigating and implementing the professional project. So really this is an opportunity to let your passion come forth. And it's also an opportunity for you to begin to establish yourself as an expert in this area. You are coming to us as students here, not as blank slates at all. You've increased your level of professional skills throughout this MS-Ed program. This is your time to start to show that and say, I understand the field. I know where this problem connects or connects to the greater issues in the field. So let us know. There's chapter 1. Chapter 2. Now, I always say to students, chapter 2 could be some of the most laborious work that you do in throughout the whole professional project. That being said, it's because literature reviews are they are time consuming. There's no doubt about it. You have to go through go to the library, you have to find the articles, you have to do the work of searching and reviewing abstracts and categorizing literature reviews and evaluating literature reviews to make sure that it's that is important, relevant, and well-constructed literature. There's a lot of going into this part of the review. And of course, through ED 604, I provide you a lot of support through that. Also, your committee members can provide you support while you've done the bulk of your work already for the literature review, they can always guide you, depending on their expertise, to the latest, most relevant research that should be considered. That being said, and as I've said once, I've said 100 times, this is not an opportunity to summarize. This is an opportunity to synthesize. Okay, so you're going to see how are these ideas connecting? Okay, how are they playing off each other? How are they either complementing or contrasting with each other? This is cognitively demanding work. Okay, but as you seek to produce an exceptional literature review, I will expect to see that you have synthesized what the authors have said about the problem or the issue that you're exploring, that you're identifying the gaps in the literature, like what's missing. Oftentimes students come to me and they say, I've done a really thorough literature review and I can't find something that speaks to what I'm going to do. And I say, congratulations, you've identified a gap in the current knowledge. Okay, you just need to be doing the thorough work that if you make that claim that there's a gap, there is indeed a gap. And all scholars have to do that work. Okay, but your project committee is here to help you with that. Your chapter 3 is going to be a step-by-step explanation of how you've done this, about what this project is and what's going to happen. So typically there are some things that we need to know in order to inform the readers about why you're making some of these instructional decision making these instructional decisions that you're implementing in your project. So we need contextual information. We need to know, where or how, where is this being conducted? What's the context? Is it in a school? Is it in a community? What's that community and school like? What is the demographic information that will help us understand some of the things that are going on? Okay. If you're researching in your own classroom, tell us that. Tell us what the classroom is like, what available resources are there, what are your students like, what are their strengths, what are their challenges. Okay, and just give us any kind of details that will help us understand what's going on. Then so that's your context, and then your context, as I just said, has your setting and your participants detailed out. Also, if there's any kind of instructional materials or specific curriculum that you're using, this is a time to illuminate that. Then you get into your procedures, okay, and tell us with enough detail that someone who was in education and familiar with education could, I don't want to use the word replicate because you're not doing quantitative work, but someone who could who could clearly follow your steps, understand exactly what you were doing and why you did it. Okay, feel free, and when I say feel free, I encourage you highly to, when appropriate, connect the instructional decision-making processes that you are explaining within the design, planning, and decision-making chapter with the literature review and the professional standards. So it's not going to come across as that you solely made these decisions in an uninformed way. Conversely, you've made these decisions based on your professional expertise, the research, and professional standards. So let us know that. Again, you're demonstrating through this whole project how you are a leader in your field and becoming a leader in your field. So this is your opportunity to show it. Write with clarity. Write so that a colleague could understand, and write using professional discourse. Have your second reader read this carefully, but this doesn't have to be a second reader or committee member that reads this. If you have a colleague who owes you a favor, and this is great opportunity to cash it in, have them read it, and any questions that they come out, what's helpful to me is they may say, what did you mean by this? And you realize that this is something that maybe the colleague who doesn't work in your school, doesn't completely understand the curriculum or context, will need some additional information. Good test for that. Chapter 4. Now, chapter 4 is difficult to discuss in general. I'll just discuss it in general terms because each student's product is different. We know that. We've talked about that a lot. But it's going to show us that you are creative, knowledgeable, expert, and it has met your high expectations. This does not mean you have to create a perfect product. I always tell folks that we're not aiming for perfection. That's not real anyway. So a lot of things are going to perhaps go wrong, and that's okay. Don't have a meltdown. That's the work, right? That's the work that we're involved in. We're trying to, make something as good as it can be. It's always going to have an opportunity to be better. You'll work collaboratively and improve it. But, it's your design product as is. We're also on a certain time frame here. So you're just going to design the product as best as possible. And then there's opportunities to reflect. That being said, that's chapter 5 is your reflection. You're going to return to the goals for your product. You're going to tell us a little bit about how did it go? How did what did you learn from the experience? Okay. What were the challenges? What were the learning moments? What were the aha moments? What would you do differently if you had a chance to do this again? If you were advising someone else, consider this. Someone may take up a very similar product from you in a year or two and want to expand on it. Okay, maybe there's someone in your district, maybe there's someone in this MS Ed program, and they'll turn to you for some of that expertise to say, I tried this. This is what's worked. This is what you can, change. And maybe you'll be on their committee. It's great. Okay, so explain some of these things. Make sure you're crystal clear. And overall, there is an expectation that you're writing professionally and that you are writing in a clear and cohesive, structured, organized, grammatically, syntactically, mechanically, appropriate way that is clear. It is not full of jargon, but it is professional. This is a balance. Now, talking about writing, anybody who's known me for 2 minutes knows how passionate about this I am. There are two things that are going on. They are following the expectations of the genre, the way that it is structured. Not many people have written an MS Ed thesis before. Nobody will probably write it again. So spend some time looking at the example models, the models that I've given you. Okay. Look carefully at how they are structured. Look carefully at how the language features, what language features help that text to accomplish its purpose. What does that academic language look like? Okay. Use resources. Peer readers, they are very helpful. I had one student who was a math instructor, and not to say that math instructors aren't good at language, I don't believe that, but he identified writing as being an opportunity for growth for him. Wonderful, but we also had limited time for that growth to emerge. So his grandmother became his editor. She had been an administrative assistant and just had a real great command of grammar, ability to edit, support revision. Fantastic. If you have someone like that and you are confident can give you advice, critical but supportive advice to make your work better, all the better. If you don't, talk to me. I can hook up with some folks. Your second reader or your committee members shouldn't be doing a lot of editing and revision for you. A, it's not their job, and they don't have time for it. B, okay? So they're there to contribute their expertise and validate that your work is meeting the expectations of the profession. The Writing Center, Wu's Writing Center. You've already paid for the service. Your fees go to this service. There are some wonderful students involved. So since you've already paid for that service, use it. Use it, okay? It's not a one-shot deal, right? You only have, I think, 2 hours of appointments available to you in a month. So use as many as you can, ask for resources from them, and do so wisely. So your writing should be logically constructed, coherent, cohesive, meeting the expectations of the profession. So those are the components of the rubric. If you have questions, please let me know. Thank you, and have a great day.